You guys were right once again. You guys were right once again. And the more I look at these stats that are being highlighted by ESPN and national media, the more I realize that they are excluding Caitlin Clark and erasing her from history once again.
Well, Olivia, you are making history in the WNBA, not just for a rookie, but for any player. The fastest to 300 points, 100 rebounds, 100 assists.
The fastest to 300 points, 100 rebounds, 100 assists. Wow, this is my first time hearing that, actually. So Holly didn't even say it was just for rookies. She said it was for all time. Oh my goodness. They're kind of erasing Caitlin Clark from history to prop up others. They tried it with Paige, Angel Reese, now Olivia Miles. It doesn't make any sense to me. You know what they say, not providing full context is just as good as lying. But I'm just here to let you guys know that it's definitely an agenda going on right in front of our face.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to WNBA Daily Pulse. I hope you're all having an amazing day. Today, I've got another exciting and highly interesting video for you. And if you're a true Caitlin Clark fan, you're definitely going to want to watch this one until the very end. Before we get started, let me know you're part of the Clark Update community by commenting CC 100% below. I always enjoy seeing Clark fans in the comments. Now, without wasting any more time, let's jump straight into today's story. They weren't merely accused, suspected, or questioned. They were caught using dates, receipts, and side-by-side comparisons backed by publicly available numbers. Today, we're going to break down every part of this because many fans believe there's a clear pattern in the way ESPN Insights presented Caitlin Clark's statistical record. And when patterns keep repeating, people naturally begin asking questions. Here's why. Between June 29th and July 22nd, ESPN Insights published 4 separate graphics highlighting Olivia Miles as the fastest player to reach a particular milestone. In less than 4 weeks, Miles was featured as the record holder across 4 different graphics.
Apologize for not looking into this sooner. There are 2 standards being applied to Caitlin Clark's rookie season and Olivia Miles' rookie season. Olivia Miles' rookie season versus WNBA all-time history.
And this is the part that has so many fans upset. Every single one of those graphics used a different statistical cutoff. They weren't just slightly different, they were fundamentally different. According to critics, the benchmarks kept changing from one graphic to the next, raising questions about why the standard wasn't applied consistently across the board.
Gentlemen, you guys remember last time when Holly Rowe and Olivia Miles, the last time they got in front of a microphone, and Holly Rowe said Olivia Miles was the fastest to 300 points, 100 rebounds, 100 assists, and we debunked that, and we found that to be false. That record actually belongs to Caitlin.
Every single time, the goalposts weren't just moved, they were completely rebuilt. That's what many critics find most troubling. In legitimate statistical tracking, a respected outlet selects a category and applies it consistently from game to game and season to season, regardless of whether the numbers support a preferred storyline. That's how credible record-keeping is supposed to work. Instead, according to those critics, ESPN Insights appear to introduce a different category each time the previous one no longer produced the outcome they wanted to highlight.
Some more digging with the facts that ESPN are posting on social media, talking about after games, about Olivia Miles' stat lines, and I started to realize that they were excluding Caitlin Clark from history. This is insane what's happening, and it's going unaddressed by national media, the sports industry. I don't know how much longer this can continue before someone steps.
That's not tracking a record, critics argue. That's shopping for one. And the details matter. So let's break everything down step by step. On June 29th, ESPN Insights published a graphic stating that Olivia Miles was the fastest player to reach 350 points and 100 assists, presenting it as a new statistical milestone.
Miles is the fastest player to 350 plus points and 100 assists, passing Paige Beckers and Caitlin Clark. Now I said, you know what? Let me do some research into this as well, because if that stat was wrong on national TV, what else could be wrong at their time?
Do you notice what's missing? Rebounds. Through the same number of games, Olivia Miles had 91 rebounds, while Caitlin Clark had 104. Clark cleared that mark, but Miles did not. As a result, rebounds were left out of the category. Critics argue that a statistical combination was used in which Clark held no advantage, and once they found one, they presented it as the featured milestone, claiming it appeared custom-built for that result.
So I realized something. I said, 350 plus points and 100 assists is interesting. But when we looked at the first one, Holly Rowe said, one more time, rebounds was included. One more time, Holly.
Any player the fastest to 300 points, 100 rebounds, 100 assists.
300 points, 100 rebounds, 100 assists. But when you look at this stat line right here, it says 350 plus points and only 100 assists. What happens to 300 points, 100 rebounds, 100 assists? Why are we now looking at 350 points and we can't even find the rebounds anymore?
And while we're on the subject, notice something else. Why wasn't the benchmark set at 350 points and 150 assists instead? Critics argue the answer is simple. Olivia Miles was still well short of reaching that mark.
Once again, as you can see on your screen, they propped up and they increased the threshold to 350 to exclude Caitlin Clark from this one. And then they dropped rebounds entirely. Why? Because Caitlin Clark has 104 and she's eligible for that award when Olivia Miles has yet to crack 100 at this point.
400 points, 100 rebounds, and 100 assists had suddenly become the new benchmark. Rebounds were back in the graphic because this time Olivia Miles had finally reached the mark. But the pattern didn't stop there. The category changed again only after the previous version no longer served its purpose. Instead of using one consistent standard across every player, ESPN Insights introduced a brand new milestone. That's what raised so many eyebrows. If the original benchmark was truly meaningful, why abandon it just 2 weeks later? Why not keep tracking the exact same category throughout the season? Those are the questions many fans started asking. Consistency is what gives statistical records credibility. When the criteria constantly change, people naturally begin wondering whether the numbers are being selected to tell a specific story rather than simply reporting the facts. To many observers, that's exactly what this looked like.
And on July 13th, ESPN Insights posted Olivia Miles has reached 400 points in her rookie season. Miles is now the fastest player in WNBA history to reach 400 points, 100 rebounds, and 100 assists. So just like that, ladies and gentlemen, rebounds is right back into the equation.
When Miles crossed the 100 rebound mark by July 13th, the category suddenly included rebounds again. The requirement changed to 400 points, 100 rebounds, and 100 assists, even though rebounds had been excluded from the earlier graphic. That's what caught people's attention. The benchmark wasn't staying consistent. It was changing after the fact. Critics argued that instead of using one fixed statistical standard, the category was being adjusted once Miles met a new milestone, making the comparison appear tailored rather than consistent.
Exclude rebounds when it benefits Olivia Miles, and we're going to include rebounds when it benefits Olivia Miles.
Post number 3, published on July 22nd, changed the benchmark once again. This time, the graphic highlighted 500 points and 100 assists, removing rebounds from the category. Critics argued that the criteria kept changing instead of staying consistent.
You guys, because it doesn't stop there. Once again, Olivia Miles is the fastest player in WNBA history to reach 500 points, 150 assists, excluding rebounds once again, doing it in just 26 games. This is very interesting to me. Why? It's very interesting because, yes, the points is now looking consistent, right? We're keeping it at the 100. But guess what? Now they want to all of a sudden increase the threshold to 150 assists. All of a sudden now, July 22nd, they want to increase the threshold to 150 assists in just 26 games. And guess who they include in this record? She breaks the previous mark set by Paige Becker's 28 games and Caitlin Clark 29 games. It's hilarious.
The pattern stayed the same at every checkpoint, so it's worth looking at the numbers ESPN used. After 19 games, Miles had 356 points to Clark's 308, but Clark led with 128 assists to 109 and 104 rebounds to 91. By 21 games, Miles had 393 points, 101 rebounds, and 118 assists, while Clark already had over 300 points, 119 rebounds, and 149 assists. At 24 games, Clark posted over 400 points, 142 rebounds, and 188 assists, while Miles had 458 points, 112 rebounds, and 141 assists. After 25 games, Miles finished with 490 points, 120 rebounds, and 149 assists, but Clark still led with 145 rebounds and 194 assists. Every checkpoint told the same story. Clark led in assists and rebounds, yet ESPN changed the category each time the gap grew.
This is exactly what I mean by they pedestalize Olivia Miles and they, cherry pick her stats in ways so they can say she passed Caitlin Clark, etc., etc. When you can clearly see not only is Caitlin Clark generating more points than Olivia Miles, but the play style is way different.
Something else adds to the debate. During an ESPN broadcast, Holly Rose said Olivia Miles had reached 300 points, 100 rebounds, and 100 assists, presenting it as a milestone for any player, not just a rookie. Critics argued that Caitlin Clark had already reached that mark first, making the statement even more controversial.
Let's compare it. Let's be fair. In just 26 games, it clearly looks like Caitlin Clark is not only generating more points, but she has way more rebounds, way more assists. And let's not forget, Caitlin Clark is on her way to the post-Olympic break. We know what they say, not providing full context is just as good as lying.
In trying to crown Miles, critics say ESPN unintentionally highlighted Clark's advantage. One key example came in Miles' 25th game, when she had 490 points and 149 assists, just 1 point and 1 assist shy of a 500-150 milestone. ESPN didn't post a graphic then. Critics argue they waited because 490-149 wasn't 500-150ths, suggesting the timing of the post was carefully chosen.
About it though, right? There was nothing to say. 149 assists for Miles. They would have excluded rebounds. Oh yeah, that as well. They would have excluded the rebounds as well and said Olivia Miles passed Caitlin Clark again. There's volume in the silence, guys. I want you guys to understand that. For every graphic that's not posted after an Olivia Miles game, you can almost guarantee that means Caitlin Clark still holds that record. Or if Caitlin does hold the record, they're going to try to tweak it, cherry pick it, or exclude something else so they can go ahead and prop and pedestalize Olivia Miles.
Meanwhile, Clark posted comparable numbers in games 19, 21, 24, and 25, but ESPN insights remained silent. Critics argue that the same data and game logs that produced multiple graphics for another player were never used to spotlight Clark, creating a noticeable contrast. They also point out that Clark was ranked 9th by her peers last year and 11th this season despite leading guards in several statistical categories. To them, it reflects the same pattern. Whether in player voting or record graphics, Clark is often left out of the spotlight. Beyond the stat sheet, they also note that she has frequently faced physical defense on the court, with many of her matchups becoming part of ongoing debates over foul calls.
And the biggest of them all, the way Olivia Miles is guarded versus how Caitlin Clark was guarded. Caitlin Clark accounted for, I think, 70% of all flagrant fouls committed during the 2024 season, and 80% of those flagrant fouls were committed on Caitlin Clark by the Chicago Sky, the rival team, against Angel Reese, Kennedy Carter, Diamond DeShields, and company.
To be clear, some of the figures being discussed have not been officially verified, so they should be viewed as claims rather than established facts. Even so, critics argue they fit the same pattern they believe ESPN's graphics created. They stress that this is not about Olivia Miles, who they say has earned her success and is having an outstanding season. Instead, they argue the real issue is ESPN insights and the way its graphics were presented to casual fans who rarely fact-check statistical posts. Because many people trust ESPN's reach and credibility, they believe those graphics shaped the perception that Miles held records they argue were first achieved by Caitlin Clark. According to these critics, Clark's legacy is secure because her official box scores, game logs, and milestones remain part of the record, but they say ESPN's changing statistical thresholds raise legitimate questions about consistency. They point out that fans themselves compared the numbers, tracked the games, and saved the graphics, arguing that the evidence came from publicly available data rather than speculation. In their view, Clark's performances in games 19, 21, 24, and 25 are permanently recorded, and no graphic can change what happened on the court. They believe the controversy has prompted fans to pay closer attention to how milestones are presented, and they encourage viewers to subscribe, turn on notifications, and stay tuned for future updates.